Okay, it looks like everybody's here and is signed in. If there's anybody that has not signed in, we've got an attendance record in the back there. Please give us your name and contact information if you don't mind, please. But we'll go ahead and get started here. First of all, I want to give a thank you out for all of you for taking time out of your evening to join us tonight and have a discussion with all of the city people here about this project, which we feel is a very important project for the city and for the Fifth Street community. I also would like to thank Reverend Scott and his wife Shirlene for being gracious hosts here at Fifth Street Baptist Church, and appreciate you hosting us tonight. Good. All right. Give a brief agenda here and an introduction. Once I introduce the team members, I'll turn it over to Tom Martin to give a little bit of a history on the Fifth Street Master Plan and why we're doing this project. And then I'll jump back in and talk a little bit about the project itself in a whole and try to get down to a little bit as much detail as we can, or as much detail as you would like to have us discuss tonight. And at the end, we'll have a question and answer period. We can either do, if you have questions and would like to do it while Phil is filming us here, that'd be fine. If you'd like to talk, if you're more comfortable talking with us one-on-one, we'll be at the various posters around the room here, which will detail some of the information that you have also in your handouts in front of you. My name is Scott Parkins. I work with the Department of Water Resources, and I'm going to be the project manager for this project. Tom Martin over here is the city planner, and he has been working with me and the engineers on developing the streetscape planning. My background is in the utility planning side of things, so together we've kind of come up to get this design in order here. Also here we have Jess Gearing, who's been reaching out to a lot of the businesses and the individuals in the community already. She's doing a great job. She's also prepared for you handouts and also a comment card, so if you feel like you would like to ask a question and would prefer to do it in writing, please do so and give those to us at the end of the day, and we'll be certainly glad to take a look at them and respond back to you. Let's see, am I leaving anybody out? Tommy Hammock over here on the far side is with Wiley Wilson, and he's our design engineer on the project. And so he'll also be available to talk about what went into the design as we talk at the boards at the end of the day. And with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Tom, and let's get into the nuts and bolts about the Fifth Street.
Well, good evening. It's very good to be with you guys again tonight. I can tell that we are in a Baptist church because the majority of you are in the back there, but that's okay. So I'd like to talk with you a little bit tonight about the Fifth Street Master Plan. The Fifth Street Master Plan was adopted in May 23rd of 2006 at the direction of city staff and the Fifth Street Community Development Corporation. Worked very hard with us, and a few of those members are here tonight. The president, Mr. Eddie Claiborne, is here with us. Thank you, Eddie, for coming. And it was really a grassroots planning process that led us to the creation of this plan that was adopted by council. Now, this plan established a vision for the Fifth Street corridor, being a revitalized corridor with a thriving business center and a beautiful setting. But the plan also set some guiding principles as we move forward, if we could switch to those. Yep. And as we discuss these, I hope you will see how these guiding principles are really being implemented today and are coming about as part of the streetscape improvements that have been completed and will be completed with this phase. So the first guiding principle was an urban street for all. So many of you have been in this area for a long time, if not the majority of your life, and you remember how Fifth Street was up until the 60s. It was a very thriving business center, but then when it started to decline, it really started to be taken over by the automobile, right? And it was just being used for through traffic. Well, an urban street for all, this guiding principle, is to reclaim the street, just not for the motorists that were traveling through it, but for the pedestrian and the people that live and work and recreate along Fifth Street. So to create an urban street for all people, all users. The next guiding principle was encouraging walking. If you remember the sidewalks, they were very narrow, very close to the vehicular traffic. You can see by the construction of Phase 1 from Jackson Street down to Main Street, those sidewalks have been widened. We've put in designated crosswalks to help pedestrians get across the street. And we also actually narrowed the street. So instead of having 3 lanes of traffic, it went down from 2, and also added some on-street parking. So that helped to slow traffic, but also helped the pedestrian get across the street a little bit easier without having to run and take your life into your hands. The next principle was honoring history. You know, Fifth Street has a very long and honored history that the plan wanted to capture, but also build upon. Not only the historic buildings, but the historic sites. If I talked to any one of you individually, you could tell me about the history of Fifth Street, the things and people that came to Fifth Street, musicians, artists. So the plan set to honor that history by trying to preserve historic buildings, but also for new buildings, making sure that the new buildings honored that architecture that was seen in the past. Supporting the needs of the neighborhood. You know, Fifth Street was the place to be for this area. It was where people went to the doctor. It was where people went to the dentist. It was where people went and got their prescriptions filled. It's where people went to eat. It's where people worked. The plan tried to capture that and tries to show and recreate a neighborhood, an area that supports the needs of the surrounding neighborhoods and residents, making sure that there's goods and services for people in the neighborhoods, that there's jobs, that there's places to recreate. Also, a guiding principle was creating tools for new businesses and residents. The plan supports and set out an implementation schedule for the creation of new tools that are available for businesses and to create housing opportunities. But last but not least, the plan called for inspiring action. And the Fifth Street CDC has been a big part in this and has worked really hard in helping us get to the point where we are today with the streetscape improvements. And that is making sure that the stakeholders are making revitalization happen. And it's just not the city and it's just not the CDC that's making the revitalization of Fifth Street happen. It's all of you. Because there's many of you that are here that have came to the Fifth Street area, that are opening businesses, that continue to have businesses here, that continue to live here. And you're the ones that are going to make the revitalization of Fifth Street happen and continue to happen. So we'll move on and talk very briefly about the phases. As you know, Phase 1, which was completed in 2009, included the streets from Jackson to Harrison and included the construction of the roundabout at 5th and Federal Street. We moved on from Phase 2 down to Harrison to Main Street, and that included the same type of streetscape improvements. And that was completed in January of 2014. Both of those projects, as you'll hear later on, didn't just involve the streetscaping improvements, what you saw above ground, the nice, pretty brick sidewalks and the nice street lights. There's also a lot of things that had to go on underground, utility lines, water lines, sewer lines. And all of those things take time, but doing those improvements help to ensure that you have the adequate infrastructure to provide water and sewer to your homes and actually the entire city with this project. Phase 3, we'll talk a little bit more. That's what we're really here to talk about tonight. That's slated to start in November of this year. So let's talk a little bit about where we are today, Fifth Street. These are just some shots of the streetscaping improvements, obviously the roundabout. I'll give a shout out to the CDC again. They're doing an excellent job in raising funds to place a statue of Mayor Thornhill in the center of the roundabout, and I believe you're very close to having that done. 95% complete. So that statue will be going in the middle of the roundabout and honoring Mayor Thornhill. So, but next slide. There's been some very significant investment in the 5th Street area, and it's no surprise that this investment is happening where the streetscape improvements have occurred. We're a very firm believer at the city that private investment follows the public investment. You see the 5th and Federal Station on the left here. That opened in December of 2016, is that correct? I saw him somewhere. Oh, there, is that right, December? Very, very nice restaurant. As we go through some of these examples, think back to those guiding principles. You know, having somewhere to be able to go to eat, the restaurant at 5th and Federal, reinvesting in that historic service station that was opened in the 1920s. But also a new building, a new retail outlet at also on the other side of 5th and Federal was opened in October of that same year. And there's a retail outlet. You know, up until that point, there really wasn't any place to go get milk or a loaf of bread or those types of things. Then further down, the Gish Apartments opened. All of these things occurring in areas of the streetscape improvements. These are 66 apartment units that opened in 2016 that not only included the construction of a new building, but also renovated a historic tobacco and hosiery mill. And last but not least, we have the Central Wellness Center that we're very excited about. It's about a $7.5 million investment, I believe, that's slated to bring medical services to this community. It's slated to open fall of this year, but actually be accepting patients in January of next year. So all of these things are bringing people and jobs and services to this area. So the city never said that we could do this alone. So again, all of you are helping to revitalize your neighborhood, and we thank you for that. You want me to wrap? No. You don't want me to either. I'm sorry. Could all of you hear that, or would you like me to repeat it? I know you don't want me to repeat it. Okay. Next slide. So what we're here tonight to talk about is Phase 3. Phase 3 is the third phase of the 5th Street improvements and will run from Jackson Street to Taylor. The streetscape improvements will primarily be on Jackson and Taylor, but the utility project will also include the block from 5th on Park from 5th up to Taylor Street. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott Parkins to give you more detail about the project and what's involved.
All right, thank you, Tom. Go ahead and flip it, Jess. All right, so the first step of our project is going to be to do the utility work that happens to be needed underneath the street. What we'll be doing is the same thing that you saw built with the roundabout and Phase 2, and that is the new 24-inch raw water main will continue up, and parallel to it, a 16-inch finished water line. The raw water main basically picks up water from our James River pump station and delivers it all the way up through Park Avenue to the entrance of the College Hill water plant. So what we've put in with the first two phases actually can't even be used at this point until we do the final, the third phase here and build it up to the water plant. And then the 16-inch water line will replace a 100-year-old water line that currently exists on 5th Street. New services and meters for all the customers. And one thing that's going to be a little bit different about this project than the Phase 2 project is We're not doing this as a CSO separation project. And a lot of you hear CSO and you kind of groan a little bit because you know that when you start digging down onto the sewers, you start getting into really some deep manholes and it starts getting a little bit more time consuming. But this project is going to be strictly the water line, the 2 water lines, and a small amount of storm inlet work, I believe, is included in that. Is that right, Tommy? Yeah. Inlet replacement. But it does not include digging down to separate the storm and the sanitary sewer. Right now, we're picking everything up and taking all of that down to the wastewater plant for treatment. After we get done with the utility line work, obviously that's when we're going to be getting into the streetscape improvements, and our design is basically to make it look like what we see with the roundabout and with phase 2. So you'll see, first of all, in the street, obviously we'll be putting in new pavement where we tear it up to put the water lines. New sidewalks. The sidewalks will have the brick accents like you see on the other projects. New brick crosswalks, new park benches, tree wells, bushes and trees. Let's see what else. Light posts also. So everything that you see on the first 2 projects is going to be continued to make it look like a continuous street coming up in the same patterns. All right, so the big thing that we're struggling with right now is how are we going to be handling the traffic flow while we do the construction? What we're anticipating is that the contractor, who has not been hired yet, we're still in the design phase on this project, will probably start down at the roundabout and work his way up the hill with the water line coming from Jackson up through the 5 street intersection and then up Park Avenue. When each block is under construction, we're still looking at opportunities right now of leaving 1 lane of traffic open, similar to what we did with phase 2. So it would be traffic heading towards the midtown. But in order for the contractor to work, we do recognize that is the most that we can leave open with the traffic, is a lane going in one direction. Once we start getting into a little bit here, I'm going to talk to you about possibilities of whether or not we want to look at actually closing the street down for time convenience as well. And that's probably the major item that we're still struggling with right now. What we're looking at is detouring routes similar to what we saw with phase 2, in that the large traffic, such as larger trucks, we would try to capture those and move them over to 12th Street, which has a larger capacity to move up and down 12th Street. The local traffic has an option to detour onto 8th Street, which is not particularly wide, but it is two-way, and it would be a way to move traffic around the area. In addition, we have 6th, 7th, and 4th Streets that can also be used to move traffic just 1 block or 2 blocks over. And if your business or home is located in an area that we're going to be working in construction in, Jess has already reached out to a lot of the businesses in the area, and we're certainly going to be open to, we want to keep that line of communication going so that we understand how the construction may impact your business or your residents. Specifically, for example, we have 2 funeral parlors that are in the area, so we will constantly be working with you to understand when a funeral might be coming out of either one of those locations, and we would make arrangements with the contractor if we know in advance to make things a little bit easier for you to keep business as usual while, unfortunately, the construction is going on. The last point here is an important one as well, but at no time during the project are we going to shut off access to people to walk up and get into your business. So we do have to work on the sidewalks, but we're going to make arrangements so that anybody that wants to enter your business and needs to enter your business can enter your business. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the timeline here, and you'll see why we're talking about what we're going to do with the traffic. Right now, the engineer has estimated that the project length is going to take about 21 months in time overall. Now that does seem a little bit long to you, but let's give a comparison. Phase 2, which was the 5 blocks going down from the roundabout, took 28 months, I believe, 27 to 28 months. So we're already looking at trying to do everything we can to try to bring that back a little bit with 1 lane of traffic open. One of the options, if we do allow the contractor to close down a block of the road, to allow him full access so that he is not worried about and working around traffic going through his construction site, the engineering estimate drops down to about 16 months. So we can save about 5 months if we shut down, for example, the 1 block of the road that he's working on at a time. I don't think there would be a need to close down the whole project area during that time. But if we give the contractor a little bit of room to work, he definitely can work faster and safer. So I'd be interesting, we're definitely interested in hearing your opinions on whether or not you would prefer to see 1 lane of traffic at all times. Would you prefer to see the accelerated schedule? We are also looking at other means to try to accelerate the schedule as well, such as providing financial compensation to the contractor for finishing early. Is certainly on the table as well. We're working on finalizing the design with the intent for putting it out for bids in September. Once we have a contractor on board, I definitely foresee us bringing it back out into a public forum again once the contractor is here, so that you have a chance to meet the contractor. He'll have a chance to lay out his project schedule for you, with the intent that the project is likely to kick off in November. We're shooting for November 1st, 2017 as a kickoff date. And so that gives you a little bit of a background on what we're thinking right now, but I would definitely, if you'd like to ask some questions, certainly we can do open mic questions here first, and then if you feel more comfortable to talk to us individually, we'll certainly stay around and talk to you as well. So, open mic time.
You mentioned this is not going to be a CSO separation project at this point. Is that something that would need to be done later? Are we foreseeing that in 25 years they're going to have to come back in and do CSO work?
No, the city has changed their method of handling CSO separations, and now our goal is to try to capture all the CSO areas and send it to the wastewater plant. What we have done is we have televised the sewers in the project area to make sure that they are in good enough condition, and a future project may come back and we would possibly line the sewers, which can be done without having to dig them up.
My first question is, have y'all consulted with the bus riders? Because we're already having trouble with people who ride the bus. That's going to give another delay when we already have 1 to 2 hours. My second question is, what type of money are y'all estimating putting into this work?
Okay, good questions. We are indeed working with GLTC and with the school systems and with the emergency service systems to try to make sure that everything that we do with this project, they can work around with their schedules and keep those services running through the project area in the case of emergency services, or, well, probably through the project as well with the bus services. And Jess, I believe we have a meeting coming up with GLTC. Yep, so we are doing that. As far as the financial information, our engineer is estimating that it's about a $3 million project. And it will be funded with, the majority of it will be funded through local funds, but we do have a small amount of community development block grant funds that will also be contributing into the project.
I have some.
Sure.
Okay. I see what you're talking about, but 6th Street and 7th Street. 6th Street coming up is one way and 7th Street going down. I think y'all going to have to have a good plan for that. Yes.
Certainly, we do recognize that 6th and 7th are not suitable for heavy amounts of traffic, and therefore the published detour routes are going to be, and we'll have signs up for the published detour routes. We'll be directing local traffic to 8th Street. But people find a way, and if they think they might want to go down there, I mean, obviously they could. We did see that on some of the other projects that people use those streets.
I like to follow through with that as well. Right now we have, I mean, there's not 8 seconds that go by where we don't have traffic down 5th Street. And there's a phenomenal amount of traffic through there, and more than it ever has been. Now previously when we cut the road off, I guess there was 2 businesses that were forced to leave there because we had the road blocked off. I would strongly encourage that we keep at least a lane open.
Okay, definitely. That's why we're here, to take those opinions. Yep.
I'm talking about the bus stop. So right now there's a bus stop, I think, at Jackson. Mm-hmm. Where is that going to be relocated during the construction? And is it going to be relocated after the construction?
I know I could answer the later question will be no, it won't be relocated after construction. During construction, we'll have to meet with the GLTC to talk about it. And if it does get relocated to a point, we'll put out signs so that we can identify where customers can be picked up by the bus.
You had mentioned some grants that will be, I guess, applied for to help with this construction. Considering grants, will there be any grants for the small businesses in this area that will be shut out just because of traffic?
Okay. Do we have anybody here from economic development? Anybody? Because that's. Okay, Charles.
I'm Charles Hartgrove. I'm the Deputy City Manager. I did speak with Margit Upshur, who's the Director of Economic Development, earlier today. There's no business disruption grants or anything of that nature that the city has on the books at this time, so I'm not aware of anything that we could distribute to businesses because of construction problems or anything else.
Excuse me. I was asked to come here about Mrs. Maddie Carter, and she was interested in one question because she's been having a problem with 2 trees in front of her house. But from where I'm understanding now, you're going to replace all trees on Taylor Street back this way anyway, I believe, aren't you?
Tommy, maybe you can help me out there. Is it we are planning to replace all the trees that are currently? Yes, we are.
Okay, and the next question I just want to ask, will they have any night work, or will that be left up to the contractor to ask whether he can work at night to make the project even more feasible?
At this time, the plans would be to follow the city's current standards, which is basically sun up to sundown for construction. But if there was any specific aspect of that construction that would be better more feasible to be done at night, we certainly would recommend. You know, if there was need to be a planned shut off of the water system, for example, that would not impact would impact customers least at night, then we certainly would recommend working that piece at night.
My question would probably have to be directed to when you hired the contractor. 5th and Polk and at 5th and Jackson, you put these jut outs out into the street. Mm-hmm. When you come up Polk Street and you want to turn on the 5th to make a right turn, you can't do it without stopping and waiting until traffic is clear both ways. Don't you go have a wreck? In the beginning, they were putting up a yellow cone right there on that cement, on the rock thing. And it was knocked down in the next 2 days. They kept putting them up. Now they don't even put them up no more. They knocked them down so much. But I would think you might look at removing those 2 jut outs.
Okay.
Because if you come and try to make a right turn off of Polk onto 5th and see what happens.
Okay, that's a good question that we'll need to take under consideration for our traffic design. Tommy, I guess that would.
that corner right there, can't you take that stop, that stand, that walk up? Because it's like too far. The curve is out too far.
The curve,
Curve is out too far.
Yeah.
That Fifth and Polk.
Okay. Yeah, we could definitely take a look at that, I think.
Because you need to take it up.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll be replacing all the curb and gutter in the area, so I think that's definitely something we'll have to take a look at.
Yeah, you was talking about the landscaping and changing the sidewalks and all that. Is that also going to include that public parking lot over there? Are y'all going to do any work to that? Is that included in that, or that's something separate?
At this time, it does not include the public parking lot.
You mentioned something about possibly having some water interruption. How's that going to affect businesses, new businesses, upcoming businesses, and developments from Jackson down?
With you being on the new water system that we installed with Phase 1 and Phase 2, it should not impact you at all because there is a cutoff valve at Jackson Street. So anything that we would need to cut off above certainly would not have any impact to below.
They want to know, they also have beauty parlors on 5th Street, and they want to know will their business be affected. We also have the Elks that was good. How are these businesses going to be affected, and we still have access to these? Because some people, that's how they make their income and living, if all of these won't be able to have any access.
Yes, we'll be maintaining access to all of the businesses during the project. That'll be foremost of importance to the contractor, is to make sure that everybody can get into all of the businesses. And they have done a good job in the past in making sure that, speaking of the projects we've done on 5th Street, the project that we did downtown recently, have made an extremely good effort to keep businesses open and keep people coming into the businesses.
Yeah, I guess the contractor will have to be asked this whenever he comes in. But the parking lot here at 5th and Polk, we would strongly not like to see him storing his equipment in that parking lot. We like that parking lot. We really need that parking lot. It's used a lot in here. Even with the construction going to be going on, we need that parking lot.
Okay, that's a good point. We will have to work with the contractor to find where he can lay down his equipment, and if that's not suitable, then we can take that off the table.
On Park Avenue, what exactly will you be doing up through Park Avenue?
Okay, on Park Avenue, the primary thing that we're going to be putting on Park Avenue is the raw water line between the 5-corner intersection and the entrance to the city's water plant. And it will be going on the side opposite from Kerr Tire, so it'll be on the lane going out away from the city.
So will you be fixing the sidewalks or not?
Yes, we won't be doing the brick-type sidewalk that you'll see on 5th Street, but if we do need to get into the sidewalks where we're putting new water meters and the like, we will be replacing that section of the sidewalk as well.
With this work being done, will it also, you're also going to be working on Taylor Street up to where you turn to go to the cemetery, or just on Park Street going to Taylor Street that way?
No, we won't be doing any work on Taylor Street going into the cemetery.
So anyway, then the question I asked about her trees being taken out is not even being worked on that area then, up toward Ms. Maddie Carter on the left-hand side up there.
Okay, no, we would be taking the trees out on 5th Street, but not on the side streets going away from the project, no.
So going from here to up to Taylor Street, where the Confederate Cemetery, where the city cemetery, you won't be doing any work back this way in that area?
We'll be working from this location up to the corner of Taylor and 5th Street.
Okay.
But not from 5th Street to 4th Street towards the cemetery.
Yeah, okay.
You mentioned that you will be replacing meters, and will that affect Will you have to have access to individuals' property to replace those meters, water meters and things?
No, the water meters are located at the public right-of-way line. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Not on the property.
no. So we would have to tie them in, which would be just behind the meter, but that's the only part of the the private water line that we would touch.
Just to piggyback on that question, actually, if I haven't talked with you and you're a business owner or a resident in the area, I would love to speak with you afterwards, because as we are working on this project, when we are having construction that's affecting your property specifically, I would like to be able to talk to you in advance to make sure that I'm not affecting you when you're in there and you need to access water and you're if the project would be affecting you. So I would like to talk with you afterwards to get your contact information so we can continue that conversation.
By the way, I didn't want you to think I was complaining. I think this is a great project. This is a great thing that you're doing. If you need a parking area, I've got a big parking lot off of Jackson Street that you're more than welcome to use.
Okay, thank you.
Have you had thought about doing this 24 hours a day and as a matter of fact, possibly working at night?
I hadn't given that a lot of thought, but that's an interesting thought. We do have some residences, certainly along Park
Right.
Avenue, that we would prefer, obviously, not to interrupt their sleep time.
Sure. Maybe not 24 hours, but obviously well into the night. It'd be a...
Yeah, I think I think that is definitely an alternative.
I have a braiding salon, and you said it's going to affect the water. How are we going to shampoo hair?
For any planned shut-off, we would have to work with you in advance. That might be one of those situations that we work that particular system after your business closes for the day. Obviously, when you're working and digging in the street, there's always the possibility that we could hit something accidentally. We don't like to talk about that, but unfortunately it does happen every once in a while, and we would just have to work with you, make sure that we get everything cut back on as quickly as possible.
In the first two stages, from what I recall, there was a lot of other infrastructure that was touched as they went down deeper, and part of that may have just been that it was the CSO, but some random old gas lines, that sort of thing. Is there any plan to go deep enough to clean any of those things up or to address them if they are encountered during the course of this project, or are you guys just strictly staying at the level of the water lines?
Right now, we're just planning on the water line stuff. Now, we have reached out with the other utility companies to let them know that things are coming and to get them to do their projects as we do ours, and that's the goal. But unfortunately, they are privately owned, so we can't force them to do it.
If you need to turn the water off and the resident's not home, will you leave the same blue notice on the door indicating the time, hours, and dates?
Yes, ma'am. If we know that the water is going to have to be shut off for whatever reason, we give the residents or the business owners 48 hours notice with a blue door hanger, and that way you have a chance to respond back to us if we need to, and we can make like for the shampooing, we can make arrangements to do it at a convenient time. Okay, well, it looks like open mic time is done, but we'll certainly hang around if you want to come up and talk to us.
I just wanted to recognize Councilman Wilder came in as we started the meeting, so welcome.
Thank you. Just one quick comment. Again, I want to thank had another event at City Hall. I apologize for being late. I just want to commend all the residents for coming out. I did walk through the neighborhood and try to catch as many businesses as I could so they would be aware of the meeting tonight so you can share your concerns, so you can talk to them, especially when you have your business there, and about how the access is going to be. I think that it's so crucial to make sure they know they still have access. They had several concerns, especially with Kerr Tire. They had a lot of concerns, really a lot. So maybe, I know someone has reached out to them already, and maybe we can kind of go back to them again and just see how we can do that since they're right kind of in the intersection of both 5th and Park Avenue. And also some other concern, too, talking to persons. I wasn't on city council for the first 2 phases. I'm not sure what accommodation might have made to businesses. I know there's no any grants for economic development for projects like this, for disturbance grants or whatever. But I'd like to see if there are any other remedies that they might have done, what they might have done in the past to help alleviate some of these small businesses, whether it's tax relief or whatever, I don't know. So I'd like to just research more what they might have done in the past to accommodate these businesses for disruption. Again, because the small businesses are the root of our community, and I hate to see them affected. I know it's a great project and something we just have to do, but we don't want to have a business go out of business during this time period. So whatever we can to alleviate that and make sure there's access to the business and make sure there's some kind of a I don't want to say restitutions, but some kind of support given to those small businesses that kind of maybe already struggling, some kind of support for the small businesses. But again, thank you for all you for coming out tonight. It shows you concern about your community, shows you concern about your neighborhood, and I really appreciate you coming out, spending your time here, sharing your concerns with the city officials. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
With this project, will you guys be, I guess, advertising this on TV commercials, letting the city know that this is going to be happening soon? And if you're going to do that, would you also include the businesses that are in this area as kind of to let them know that we're still going to be here through this construction and we're not going to close?
We are talking and in communication with the communications department, who has partnerships with the News Advance, and then also looking at some other avenues. But one of my goals with this is with the business owners to make sure that we can use alternate means of supporting you, and whether that's working through social media or working through the media for TV or print or whatever that is, that anything we can do to help you guys, that's our goal. So that's why, it was great to meet you a couple weeks ago, and that's what I'm looking forward to with all these businesses, to get to know you guys better, to tell your story, because the story of Lynchburg is you guys, and to get that out there so that we can help this project. So.
And one thing I thought was helpful with construction is when they had the name of the businesses and an arrow pointing to them.
Absolutely.
So that they're still in business, how to get to
Yeah.
them. I think that was always helpful.
That's a good point, and I should have brought that up early. We definitely are planning to use the signage method that you've seen around town at other phases of 5th Street with the downtown to identify how to get to every single business that's in the project area through signs. That is definitely going to be on the agenda. All right. Definitely, if you have any questions or you want to do any written comments on the forms in front of you, please give them to Jess before you leave, and we'll certainly be here to ask any questions you want to talk to us face-to-face. If you want to ask the engineer a question, he'll be here. Thank you very much for coming out tonight.